Welcome to this video on how to structure a piece of academic writing. This video will show you how to structure the introduction, body, and conclusion of any piece of academic writing. First, it is important to clear up some mistaken beliefs about academic writing. Academic writing is not a piece of creative writing or a novel. Therefore, writing beautiful, flowery prose is not appropriate. It is also not a mystery novel. Please don't leave your reader guessing until the last minute. Rather, tell them up front what you will do and how you will do it. Finally, it is important to know that academic writing is not easy. It takes a lot of practice, a lot of drafts, and a lot of editing before a piece of academic writing is ready. The basic structure of any piece of academic writing is the following: an introduction at the start, followed by the body of the text, then a conclusion, and finally a reference list. Although referencing styles might be different, these elements are always present, and the first three elements are always present in this particular order. Let's now look at each constituent part. It is useful to think of the introduction as an upside-down triangle. The most general information will be at the top, and the most specific information will be at the bottom. This is one good way to write an introduction, but there are other ways, and you should explore what works for you. First, you want to give the reader some background. Let's say we want to write an essay about technology and education. For background, you might want to say something about how technology has grown exponentially in all different sectors in the past 20 years, and give an interesting fact or statistic as part of your background. Then, you will move on to the context, which in our example would be how technology is used in education. You might want to point out how technology is currently used in education, and you might even narrow down the context more to a specific country, like South Africa. Once you have your background and context, you will move on to giving a research question and a thesis statement. You can formulate a research question by asking what the issue is that you are dealing with. Remember that a research question is always open-ended. Then you tell the reader how you are going to answer this question. This is known as a thesis statement. A thesis statement is one sentence that expresses the main idea of a research paper or essay. It makes a claim directly answering a question. Once you have done this, you will move on to giving the reader an idea of the scope or limitations of your paper. This might include mentioning a research methodology or a particular gap in the literature that your research question will address. You can also place certain things aside and give good reasons why you won't be engaging with those in the essay. Finally, you can give an overview of the essay. This can be very straightforward. For example, in the first section, I discuss the impact of technology on education, and thereafter I provide an argument against the integration of technologies in school. The body is made up out of sections, which is made up out of paragraphs, which is made up out of sentences. Depending on the length, you might even have chapters. When writing, it is important to keep the following in mind. Always have one idea per paragraph. This will ensure that your writing remains focused and your reader is not bombarded with many ideas at once. In addition, make sure that everything links. Every sentence must link with the one before and after it, and every paragraph must link to the one before and after it. If you keep linking your sentences, paragraphs, and sections, then your essay will have logical flow, and your reader will have no problem following the flow of ideas. Signposting, as discussed in the Steps in Academic Writing video, is very useful to help with the linking of ideas. In order to ensure that you don't have redundant information, ask yourself with every single sentence, how does this contribute to answering my research question? If it doesn't, then you should delete it. In the conclusion, you have to summarize what you have done in the essay. You can think of the conclusion as a right side up triangle, the most specific information at the top with the most general information at the bottom. First, you can summarize what you have done in the essay. Then, you can give an idea of the purpose of the research. Why is this research important? You can discuss the relevance of the research on the wider context, and finally give some ideas for future research. There are many other ways to construct a conclusion, but this will hopefully give you a rough indication of the necessary elements. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to check out the other videos in this series. Happy writing!